This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and the next time one of their stars leaves the company, TNA will focus on putting over the guy who is, staying with the company. There's an old saying that goes, when you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. This has applied to TNA at certain times over the years, but there's another version of this saying that is a little more appropriate for what happened this week. When you try to put everyone over, you end up putting no one over. Now, it seems to me that TNA had a pretty simple situation here. They had two guys, one of whom is leaving the company, that out of respect you want to look good to a reasonable extent, but whom ultimately has to be defeated by the other guy who is your new top heel and who it's in your best interest to make look like $1 million. So they only needed to accomplish two things here. It's pretty cut and dry, it almost books itself, and for the life of me, I don't know how you can fuck this up. Then I saw what TNA did, and wow. Since just about everything on this show was in service of building up the main event, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and get a couple of things out of the way first so I can devote the rest of this video to focusing on that whole thing. First, this Anderson Bully Ray segment at the funeral home. In terms of production, this was the best thing on the show. I'd say this was as well produced, if not better, than the Feast or Fired briefcase opening segment, and I mean that in a good way. The music was used perfectly here. There were no announcers yapping over the whole thing. The camera work was great. They paid extra attention to the cinematography, and they managed to create a pretty creepy atmosphere. I was very impressed with this. If I have one complaint, and it's really more of a nitpick, it's that it was almost overproduced. And by this I mean that there were so many different camera angles on Anderson that it became very clear that they needed to do multiple takes to get all this coverage that they used, otherwise the cameraman would have been in the shot. It looked great. I appreciate the effort. And for a normal TV show, this would have been fine. But when you're going for a reality show type of feel, which seemed like what they were going for, that doesn't work. That takes you out of the reality. That's when it smacks you in the face that you're watching something scripted. Otherwise, this was great, even though creatively I do have some reservations about it. Involving Anderson's kids in this like they are, that's a little darker than I like this stuff to get. That's getting kind of uncomfortable. And when you're teasing that something bad is going to potentially happen to two unborn children, then you're teasing something that you really can't deliver. Yeah, that takes the believability out for me. This feud still feels kind of weird and awkward from a writing standpoint. I think the writers might be getting a little carried away with this. Dynamite production in this segment, though. This James Storm Gunner promo was short and sweet. Storm was great on the mic. Gunner was passable, but pretty clearly outshined. I'm still really hoping Storm winds up with that world title briefcase. But, and this is important, I want it to not be done in a stupid way. But guys, guess what happened here? Storm challenges Gunner to either a ladder match or an object on a pole match, they didn't specify which, with that world title briefcase on the line. And then, like so many others that have been in this situation before him, one of which was James Storm, oddly enough, even though Gunner has nothing to gain, everything to lose, and absolutely no reason in the world to agree to this, he says yes. Why? Apparently because Gunner's an idiot.
Congratulations, you just renewed your idiot license.
I'm sorry, but if I have a briefcase that guarantees me a World Heavyweight Championship match, then I'm not putting that thing on the line against anyone for any reason on earth. Because one of the prerequisites to being a world champion is not acting like a dumbass. You can guilt me, blackmail me, play on my insecurities, insult my family. I don't give a rat's ass. That title shot is mine, and the only way you get it is if you fucking kill me. And if you're actually stupid enough to put that thing on the line for any reason at all when you don't have to, then you deserve to lose your title shot. Damn, I hope James Storm wins that thing.
Yes! 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 Yes!
TNA, I have a question. You have this big cage match at Genesis with Kurt Angle and Bobby Roode that's been built up really well, the culmination of this great feud. So why on earth are you watering it down by having not one, but two impromptu cage matches the week before? With no prior announcement, no hype, no build-up, no nothing, you do Angle versus Bad Influence in a cage match and Roode versus Sting in a cage match. And after I just saw those, I'm not that excited to see Angle versus Roode in a cage match anymore. To be honest, I'm kind of sick of cage matches now. Yeah, this is going to be a TV special, not a pay-per-view, so I guess that doesn't matter as much. But still, you're burning the audience out on all these damn cage matches. If there's any ratings drawing potential in these things, you're going to whittle that down if you keep doing this. And that's not going to do your lockdown buy rate any favors, by the way. Angle Bad Influence was pretty good for the 6 minutes and change it lasted, even though the best damn tag team in this company, the team the tag division should be built around, losing a damn handicap match made me want to punch somebody. And Sting versus Roode was lousy because, well, who are we kidding? Because Sting was in it. God bless the guy, but he needs to stay out of the ring. And why in the blue hell does Bobby Roode get his ass kicked for most of this match and then need a referee distraction and a weapon to beat Sting? Are you kidding me? Forget the cage matches are no DQ to begin with. Roode has had Kurt Angle's number for months. Beating Sting should not be a problem for him. But no, see, this is TNA, where Sting is placed on a golden pedestal above everyone else, even though he's 50 plus, in terrible shape, and can't even apply his own submission move properly anymore.
Oh, what a bunch of bull.
At least Bobby Roode won the match. Let's just take that and forget the rest of this. Pretty much everything else on this show was done to build up to the main event. You give the writers credit on this one. This episode was very focused, at least until the last 15 minutes or so. Minus those first two things I talked about, every single segment was done to hype that world title unification match in some way. And when you've got a supposedly hugely important match like this, that's what you want to do. Dixie, AJ, and Magnus were all on point in the opener, even though they went and had AJ make the second biggest brain fart of the night when he agrees to a no DQ stipulation that allows every single member of Team Dixie to legally interfere in the match. And the second he signed that contract, you knew exactly what was going to happen. To their credit, though, there was some self-awareness here. AJ knew right off the bat that there was going to be tons of interference coming, so why agree to it in the first place, you idiot? But then he has to go and mention all his friends in the back that are going to come out and help him if things get out of hand. Well, gosh, AJ, what did you think Dixie was going to do after you brought that to her attention? This was another facepalm-worthy moment, but it was a strong segment, everyone's promos were good, so you can kind of overlook that. From there, everything starts to snowball, with every match just being an excuse to take out the friends of AJ Styles, so he'll be on his own come bell time. So if you were looking for some exciting wrestling matches, this probably wasn't the show for you. It's all the same story here, so I'll just go through these real quick. Eric Young and Joseph Park versus the Bromance. On Dixie Carter's orders, Gail Kim and Lady Tapa take out ODB backstage, so that feud is continuing, unfortunately. Eric leaves the match so he can rush ODB to the hospital, because apparently this happened on the one night when there was no medical staff to do this for some reason. Meanwhile, Joseph gets taken out really unconvincingly by the Bromance. This segment was pretty weak. And note to the production team, you can pump in all the canned heat you want, but when we can see plain as day that the live audience is sitting on their hands looking bored as hell, we know the Bromance are not over.
Nobody cares about you guys. At all.
EC3 with Rockstar Spud's help takes out Samoa Joe with a wrench. That's fine. I like that they're starting to build EC3 into more of a threat now. They're doing a really good job with him. Storm and Gunner get taken out off camera backstage. Again, fine. Then Al Snow tricks Kurt Angle into leaving. And Kurt falls for this so quickly and so easily, it's downright comical. Kurt, quick! Get in the car! You have to go to the airport right now! Oh my god, what happened? There's no time to explain, Kurt. I'll tell you later, but it's absolutely imperative that we leave right now! Okay, let's go! Haul ass, everybody out of my way! Really, Kurt? Nothing about that seemed fishy to you? You couldn't at least find out what the very suspiciously timed emergency was before you took off? Writers, wouldn't it have been a lot less stupid to just have Rude beat him up or something?
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
Anyway, you get the sense that there's a strong, coordinated effort by Team Dixie to remove any allies or friends that AJ Styles might have. This was all fairly well executed, and it came off like a really effective strategy on their part. Until they got to Sting. Yeah, there's a shocker. After beating up Rude for most of the cage match, he lets Rude pin him after a weapon shot, only to completely no-sell it right after the commercial break, and then act like a one-man wrecking crew along with AJ during the main event. I mean, for Christ's sake, couldn't you have just put Samoa Joe in this spot instead? It would have made a hell of a lot more sense than Sting. Ugh.
Urge to kill rising.
Now, as for this main event, this was supposedly AJ Styles' last match in TNA. They might work out some new contract later on, but for right now, he's gone. Meaning that you don't have to worry about protecting him anymore. And if you're applying any kind of common sense to this situation, you shouldn't be protecting him anymore. That being the case, it occurred to me that TNA had a golden opportunity here to legitimize Magnus as a world champion and cement him as a top star by having him not only beat AJ Styles, but beat him 100% clean. Then there would be no doubt in anyone's mind that he's the man, he's the real deal, he's the new top guy. I knew that probably wouldn't happen. With the way they built this up, you knew there was going to be interference, but I was okay with that. I was okay with it, provided that the match was good and they kept the focus on putting over Magnus the right way. But instead, we didn't get a match at all. Like an idiot, AJ agreed to a no DQ match, which meant that the heels could legally interfere all they want. So the bell rings, and then before you know it, here comes EC3 and Spud, and then here comes the bromance, and then here comes Bad Influence, and then here comes Bobby Roode. So AJ has to fight off all these assholes by himself, and then Sting comes out to even the odds, and then there's all this crap going on with the referees, and there's so much stuff happening all at once, and the next 10 minutes is AJ and Sting versus 9 fucking guys. And oh, the heroes struggle valiantly, but how can they ever hope to overcome these insurmountable odds? And you know who I didn't see very much of after that? Magnus. What the fuck happened here? Instead of a match designed to give your new world champion the biggest rub possible, you've got a giant schmoz right out of WCW circa 1998. It's like I'm watching another Immortal situation where you've got so many goddamn people that you're trying to put heat on all at once that nobody stands out and nobody really gets spotlighted properly. Actually, no. That's not right. There was one person that stood out. One person that was showcased like a warrior among peasants. But instead of your new world champion, it ended up being the guy who was on his way out the door after this and just debuted for fucking ROH. So congratulations, TNA. You just did half of Ring of Honor's job for them. Well done.
You people are fools!
After AJ, the guy who stood out the most was Sting, surprise, surprise. Because after ensuring that AJ Styles looked like $1 million in his last appearance on the show at the expense of damn near every heel on the active roster, TNA's top priority was that Sting is completely protected, even though they're apparently not even sure if he's going to re-sign. Brilliant. Then in a distant third, you've got Bobby Roode, and after that is Magnus, your world champion, who came out of this looking like a fucking chump for needing help from 8 people. Let me repeat that. Help from 8 people to beat one guy. One guy who left the damn company after this match.
This is unbelievable. This doesn't make any sense.
This didn't put over Magnus. This didn't make him look like a top guy. This made AJ Styles and Sting look like the top guys at the expense of Magnus, who they just did a complete 180 with. He starts off as a confident champion, determined to prove that he's the real deal, so determined that he threatens to quit if he doesn't get the chance to do so, and then you just have him do all this chicken shit stuff, totally invalidating all that. Why? He stood to gain the most by far in this situation, but instead of really taking advantage of that, you make him look like a joke that needed 8 other guys to bail his ass out. He couldn't even stop AJ with his own finisher, for crying out loud. He had to have Bobby Roode do it for him. What happened here was that management obviously didn't learn their lesson from fucking Immortal, and they tried to put heat on all these freaking heels all at once, but it's way too much, and they just become a giant crowd of bodies with no one being spotlighted enough for the audience to focus on them. So what happens? The audience's attention shifts to the 2 guys opposing them instead. The end result being that AJ Styles and Sting got all the attention and looked like the biggest stars here, and Magnus got whatever attention was left. You made your heels look ridiculous for having such a hard time against babyfaces they outnumbered more than 4-1. You made your world champion look ridiculous when he's the biggest selling point for your UK tour coming up in a few weeks. And the man that got put over more than anyone else here, despite losing the match, just went and left the damn company. TNA, whatever it was that you were trying to accomplish here, I don't get it. I really, really don't. I'm really frustrated right now. To me, the only way this makes any sense is if the whole thing is a work and AJ is coming back at some point. If it is, it was still kind of ridiculous. If it's not a work and he's really gone, then if a less effective way of putting Magnus over as the world champion existed, I can't think of one. We're going to have to wait and see how this all plays out. Until then, I got nothing else, guys. Take it easy. I'll see you next week.